Hi, everyone. We are so privileged today to have Leon J here, who is the founder of Fusion HQ. And he has had so many things happening in his life. And he's going to tell us a little bit about that. So welcome, Leon.
Oh, thanks, Juanita. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And the real reason why we're here is because we are going to be talking about your new book that you are going to be launching. So That is going to be very, very exciting. Very exciting.
Yes, the feedback's been excellent so far. So I'm really, happy with the way this one's going.
Yes. So Leon, I've heard that you were a little bit of a rebel at school. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Jump straight into the past. Huh?
Why not?
Yes, I think it's interesting to note that a lot of the successful entrepreneurs were often seen as being a bit rebellious, I think, or a lot of times you hear comments like, this person was either going to end up in prison or they were going to end up in a multimillionaire. And looking back, I could see that kind of quote could have easily applied to myself.
And, tell us a little bit about some of your rebellious things that you did at school.
Yes. Oh, well, okay.
Give us a bit of taste of Leon.
A taste of me. One of the things that springs to mind was just the story of when I was asked to do the bleep test, which is, when you run up and down a hall to the sound of a beep. And I just thought that this was insanity. I didn't want to do it. And I felt no need to do it. And I felt no purpose or benefit from it. And now most people just go along because the teacher says so. The teachers are the authority, and therefore you follow what the teacher does. Mm-hmm. Not really my style. So I'm sitting there just asking him, well, really, why? I said, look, no offense, but I am not doing this. And so anyway, I ended up getting a detention for it, for refusing. And I refused to go to the detention because I figured I'd done nothing wrong. In my mind, if I'd done something wrong, I would go to the detention. If I hadn't done anything wrong, then don't expect me to go to a detention that I don't deserve.
Yes.
That actually happened a couple of times. But so I turn up to the next class, and he says, well, you didn't do the bleep test. You didn't go to detention. So therefore, you're going to have to do an essay during my class. I'm like, that's okay. I don't mind. I said, I'd rather write an essay than do PE anyway.
Yes.
So he says, okay, well, so the title of the essay is why you need to go to the doctor to check your health, and therefore why you should test your fitness, something along those lines. So I wrote one short paragraph. I don't go to the doctor to check my health, never have. I mountain bike regularly and am fitter than most people in my class. Therefore, I feel no need to test my...
Oh my gosh, Leon, that would have infuriated your teacher, I'm sure.
Well, then I went on to say, however, I will tell you why you should challenge authority, and went on to write 2 sides of A4 about exactly why you needed to challenge authority. And when he read it, he simply said, well, you make some very valid points here. However, next time, just don't do it in front of the rest of the class.
So he kind of opened up to realizing that your thinking was a little bit different.
Well, yes. And I think this is the important point of the story, really, is that, well, I didn't really appreciate it at the time necessarily. Looking back, I see that attitude and that way of thinking has served me very well throughout the years. And that is to simply not necessarily just blindly accept whatever is told to you by an authority figure, no matter whether it's a scientist, a teacher, or a politician, or an internet guru. It doesn't really matter what niche or what subject or what industry you're in. There are always people out there that will establish themselves and try to position themselves as an authority, either through their past experiences or through their academics, or their titles and positions of power. So my nature is to question everything, and I encourage everybody else to do the same. Is, quite often somebody may have been misinformed. They may have come to a wrong conclusion. They may have been badly educated. Times may have changed. Right. They have an ulterior motive for misleading you or misguiding you. Obviously, we've seen this happen a lot with doctors and authorities within, say, for example, representing tobacco companies or pharmaceutical companies and food companies. Essentially, history tells us we can't always trust people in positions of authority, yet our natural instinct is to do exactly that. So we have to go against that natural instinct and question and ask ourselves, well, first of all, do they have an ulterior motive? And is what they're saying useful? Is it beneficial? And if so, then how can I apply it to me?
Absolutely.
Is it relevant to me?
And you and I both know, if we talk really internet marketing and the internet world, there are a lot of people out there that are gurus and promoting themselves that, should be questioned.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the marketing world by its very nature understands that if you want to increase conversions, establish yourself as an authority. I mean, it's taught as marketing 101 almost, And so there's a lot of people who go out there and they'll position themselves as an authority on day one. And essentially their entire motive is to sell a product.
Yeah.
They are financially motivated and they come up with a product that they've created. And, one mutual contact that we've spoken about previously, used to do this, where they were selling a product on social media. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you are an authority on social media and you use social media. I mean, we met through social media.
Correct, yeah.
Therefore, proving the benefit of social media and in a business relationship. However, this particular individual was selling courses, but he'd never made a cent through social media. He never really built or communicated to his lists, right? And the way that he would make his money is establishing himself as an authority and then going and teaching people that this is what you do to make money on social media. But meanwhile, he was making his money by selling a digital information product and coaching and live events, etc., that were all based around the topic of social media.
Right.
But none of his customers came through social media. None of his relationship was maintained through social media. It was all done through using affiliates, either offline at live events or online through various lists, and maintaining his relationship through his email list. So he basically never touched social media in his actual business.
Wow.
And, that really, annoys me when you see this type of thing happening.
Yeah. And I think, when you start making claims and things like that's kind of the difficulty. Are you claiming the right things? And This goes back to what you were saying. So always check out the people that you're working with. Always check out what they've done. And I think sometimes when, and I loved what you said once when we were talking, Leon, because you said, for you, it wasn't really, if you're going on stage and you're talking and, you're promoting, you're talking, for you, it's about giving the information. It's not about promoting the product, because you don't have to. That you are already an authority. People already know you.
I do it because I enjoy doing it. And yes, there's some benefits to our branding. Yes, there's some benefits to our business. Yes, we may even make some sales, which, look, I'm only human. I mean, I enjoy a sale as much as the next guy. But at the end of the day, it's not the primary motive. It's not the way I would choose to build my business model. I know a lot of the internet speakers, the stage speakers, that is their business model, is to move from stage to stage to stage. They don't actually really make any money outside of when they're on the stage. And that is true for, I would say, at least 80% or 90% of the people who speak. They are professional speakers who make their money through selling products from the stage. And in all of these cases, they've got a very, very different motive. And it's not always to say that the information that they give is always bad. And again, this is another thing to be very careful of. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because somebody may not have used that information, just because somebody may not necessarily be an expert, doesn't necessarily mean the information is bad.
Yes.
They don't always just write it off. But you also need to question whether it's relevant to you. And this is another problem with every sales page, because every sales page is designed to basically try and tell you that PPC is for you, social media is for you, this, FBA, fulfilled by Amazon is for you. And so there's all these different sales pages out there teaching that their business model or their traffic generation strategy, whether it be SEO or affiliate marketing, that is definitely for you.
Yes.
And of course, that's not always the case. I mean, if we try and follow each one of these different business models and each one of these different traffic generation methods, we're never going to get anywhere. We have to be able to learn how to focus, target, and work out what applies to our specific business, what applies to our specific business model.
And tell me, is that the reason, or was that one of the reasons why you decided to write, create, automate, and accelerate? There's the book.
There's the book. Yes, absolutely.
I do have to tell you, I have read the book from cover to cover.
To hear it.
It is, look, it's one of, I have to tell you, it is one of the, if you guys are watching, it's one of those books that you kind of read and then you have to go back and read it again. And then you probably have to go back and read it again and start applying, taking action, because it's a real action book. So it makes you think. And you don't hold any punches in this book.
No.
You say what you want to say.
I've been accused of being somewhat opinionated at times, and this book is no different in that regard.
I think it's good to have an opinion, though. As long as
it's
not an opinion with an ego. I think an opinion with an ego can be quite, But you're not. I mean, you and I have met, and you're such a down-to-earth, wonderful guy. So was that one of the reasons why you decided to write this book? Because it kind of covers a lot of what you're talking about in here.
Yes. I mean, it's actually my third book now, and each of the books have come out from the frustration of basically repeating myself in conversation. And so because I meet a lot of people, either through live events or just through being inside of the community, and while I was living in Thailand, I opened up a coffee shop with a co-working space where we had a lot of digital nomads and internet entrepreneurs coming and basing themselves. So I found myself in a lot of repeated conversation, which often began with a question: how do I make money? And I started getting very frustrated by this question, because I said, well, that's not the right question. I couldn't really explain why it wasn't the right question. And I couldn't explain, well, what question should you be asking? And that kind of frustrated me too. And so as I started thinking about it more and more and having this conversation again and again, I was out for a motorbike ride one day up in the mountains, and that's usually where, my best inspiration comes. And I just suddenly had this clear vision of the 5 Ps of priority, which is, one of the sort of sections in the book.
Yeah.
It talks about this idea of, yes, you need to ask, how do I make money? But you need to ask that question last, not first.
Yes.
And the question you need to ask first is, well, what's the purpose for my business? And, as I say, the idea of a business without a purpose is almost like an oxymoron. You need to have purpose for a business to exist. And if you turn around to me and tell me that my business exists to make money, then I find that rather sad. And I find that, I think it was even a quote I had in the book from Henry Ford, that really just summed it up in terms of saying that a business without a business for money's sake only. I don't remember the exact quote, but essentially saying that a business for money's sake only is no real business.
Yes.
And I think that's so true. So if you run into the question, or if you start your new business by asking the question, how am I going to make money? You've completely missed the entire point of building a business. And that is to provide value.
That is the 5 Ps of the 5 Ps of priority, and it is a business that makes nothing but money is a poor business.
Yes, thank you. Much better, much better phrased.
I even know where to find the stuff, which is sad. I've obviously read the book.
But well, I mean, so I think it makes a very valid point, though, and that is that you do need to approach the question of what business am I going to build based around what purpose am I building it for, not how am I going to make the money. Then the second question is basically, what is my passion? And what's my passion inside of that? And I think this is a very, very different question than a lot of people generally ask when they talk about passion. Because for me, passion comes out of purpose. When you have a purpose in your life, you can become passionate about that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean you enjoy every single minute of everything that you do during your day. The analogy I often give is that of, say, like for example, a tennis star. Now, somebody who wins Wimbledon isn't going to love every minute of every day. However, they only win Wimbledon by being extremely passionate in the first place and being skilled about that within that passion. And I think that's true for any business, is you've got to identify what is it that you're passionate about. Is it the marketing? Is it the video? Is it the graphics? Is it the networking? What elements are you passionate about? And what elements of that mission are you passionate about that you can really get up and become inspired, that you jump out of bed each day because you've got a mission, you've got a purpose, right? And you're passionate about your role within that purpose. And then the third stage is to ask, well, what other people do I need? That's the third P, is people. What team do I need around me? Because just like any expert will never reach the top without having a team surrounding them, nor will any entrepreneur become successful without having a team. Absolutely. And it's funny because, you know, if I asked you, okay, so that tennis star, did they win Wimbledon before or after they had a team?
It would have been after. They would have had the coach, they would have had their team.
Exactly. You know? The sports masters, the psychologists, etc., etc., etc. Same for a musician that has a number one hit. Do they have a team before or after the number one hit?
Yeah, definitely after. I mean, they wouldn't have a number one hit without a team.
Right.
They'd probably still be busking on the streets.
Yeah. Exactly, right. And there's many, many talented musicians that are probably more talented than some of these guys that have the number one hits that are busking on the streets, right? Just because you have talent and just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean you're going to become successful. That's the harsh reality. And so...
That is the third P. And I find it very interesting because... And I know from mentoring clients and things like that, I find that people don't even think like that. When they start out a business, they don't think of who the people are that they're going to need in the business. They're almost thinking that this is going to be me in this business for a while. Yes. And they don't project and think further. So the way that your questions are positioned are really fantastic. What was the fourth P?
So the fourth P is place. And that's figuring out, where do you need to build this business? Because, you know, I found a lot of people would run out to Thailand because it was cheap to live, but at the same time, it didn't really support their business model, or it didn't provide them with the people that they needed. So once you figure out what your purpose is, once you figured out what your place and your passion is within that business, once you figured out who the other type of people are that you're going to need to surround you, and what are the skills and what are the sort of people with passion are going to be required to achieve that end result, you will next be able to answer the question, well, where is the best place to locate myself?
Right.
And, you know, for each individual business, that's going to have a unique answer, but it can only be answered once the first three questions have been answered.
Yes.
Once you've identified those first three, you're now able to answer the fourth question.
And tell me, Leon, was that one of the reasons why you did move to Thailand with your business? Was that what was the reason for that?
Subconsciously, yes. I mean, I hadn't found this clarity of the 5 Ps at that point. I wish I had.
So would you have changed your decision? Would you have done something differently?
Maybe, but I don't regret it, and I don't think it was necessarily bad, and it did fulfill the 5 Ps in its own way. Okay. And the reason why I moved there was I'd been working with Mark Joyner prior to that.
Yes.
And so I was director of marketing with Mark Joyner, and that was a lot of fun, but at the end of it, I wanted to go away and build my own business. So I had, you know, a chunk of money in the bank. Now, if I was to stay in New Zealand and I was to build my business here and I was to build a team here, I would have probably survived about a month. Yeah. You know, the costs were just too great to be here and to build a team of any real quality. But by going to Thailand, I was able to reduce my living costs down to a fraction without having to sacrifice my lifestyle. At that time, I was married with a 4-year-old daughter. So, you know, people say, oh, well, I've got a family. So did I, you know, I mean, it's easy to make excuses, but the reality was that I realized that I needed to make a tough decision. I needed to make progress towards building a real business, and I needed to be serious about building a team. I wasn't going to be able to do it on my own, and I needed to invest what money I had, and I need to make it last longer than I thought it was going to need to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the reality, right? Everything always takes longer and is more expensive than you think. So no matter what I was going to budget, I recognized that I was going to need to allow even more leeway. And basically Thailand just offered me, a nice, comfortable, safe place for a family. It offered a reasonable standard of living at a very low cost, and it enabled me to build a team at a very low cost without having to try and hire a lot of outsourcers and work with people remotely. That I could get to know, that I could get inside an office and we could work together on the project. And that made a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, because obviously when you got your product off the ground and you started selling, you were selling in US dollars.
Yes.
So that does make a huge difference.
Oh, yes.
A huge difference.
Oh, yes.
But I believe that when you started with Fusion HQ, which is absolutely phenomenal product and really, really fantastic for automation. You didn't start it out to sell it to the public. You actually started that out for your own business because you'd got frustrated. Is that true? And
isn't this the story of every entrepreneur that does well? And this is why I go back to the purpose. If you look at it, we didn't set out to try and create a SaaS business. Software as a service, SaaS has become very, very trendy now. I hadn't even heard of the term when we first started out.
Yeah.
So no, it was totally to meet our own internal needs because, I'd recently done a launch for about $1.4 million in around 10 days. And that sounds fun and exciting, and it was. However, the lead up to that had taken several months, and a lot of that was setting things up, configuring things, and getting frustrated with the way that different systems communicated. So we had an autoresponder, we had an affiliate tracking system, we had our content management system, we had our membership site system, we had our payment gateways, and they were all different systems that really weren't designed to communicate with each other very well, if at all. And so it was a lot of hacking and a lot of patching, and it took a lot of hours. And I just said, this is just not necessary. We can so redesign this so that when I have an idea, that when I want to make an update, I can just go in and press a couple of buttons and it's live and it's done. I don't need to call coders. I don't need to wait going back and forth. And we don't have to do masses and masses of testing to ensure that things are working. We can just trust that they're working the first time. So that's why we built the software initially. But obviously recognizing the potential of it as a product, things change, and and we course corrected.
Yes.
And instead of focusing on selling digital information products, we started selling focusing on selling the software and creating the software as a service and as a business model in its own right.
And I tell you, it is a really easy to use software. It's got the drop and drag, and you can kind of move all your automation around. Now, your book talks about automation. So how important to you is automation in a business?
Oh, that would have to rate there as critical. Basically, you've got a couple of choices. As a solopreneur, and I was talking to a solopreneur, a very proud, self-claimed solopreneur recently, and he said, I just love the freedom. And I said, really? That's interesting. I said, so you've got the freedom to do your own accounting, the freedom to do your own customer support, the freedom to do your own video editing, your own graphics, the freedom to create your own sales copy and your own emails, freedom to create your own content, freedom to generate your own traffic, freedom to clean your own office. You've got every job from the very bottom to the very top. And
what was his response? Sorry, what was his response, Leon?
And I said, it's also interesting because what happens if you have an accident? What happens if you want to go on holiday? Who's taking care of all of these different roles inside of your business? What happens to your business? And that's a critical question that I needed to face when I had a motorbike accident a few years back. And I found myself laid up in my room, unable to walk. And what did I do? Well, I wrote my second book. I didn't worry about it. I didn't think about it, but I did take the moment. Well, I did think about it. I took a moment to reflect and appreciate the fact that, thank God that this hadn't happened a couple of years previously, because I would have been in real trouble. But as it was, it just meant that while it was painful, I was at least able to relax and focus on the recovery process and not worry about stressing financially. And I could just use that time constructively to just sit down and lie in bed and write another book. And
your business carried on because you had the people behind you. It carried on. That it has the purpose. The people were there. I had a similar situation, and also couldn't work for three months. And it was so interesting. If I didn't have people behind me, I would have had to close the doors.
Right. So I mean, to answer the question, some people may be thinking, well, that's all well and good. How do I automate? Well, there's only two ways you can really automate anything, and that's either with machines or with people.
Yeah.
And virtually every business that I've come across really can use both. It's usually finding the right combination of both people and machines. And in the case of online businesses, we're using computers and we're using software to program those machines to do what we want them to do. And, for example, with customer support, you can automate a lot of customer support by having FAQ sections and automated triggers based off keywords, etc. Is this what you were looking for? Is this your question? Is this, result? But there's a certain point at which that doesn't work anymore, and somebody just wants to talk to somebody. Somebody needs to get a personalized answer from a human being.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have somebody dealing with your customer support, then that means that person is you. And so basically the way I look at it is, if you imagine, the typical corporate structure pyramid, and you've got the different positions. You've got CEO, you've got manager, financial managers, you've got marketing managers, customer support managers, etc., and various other people, right down to the office cleaners. Now, if you were to write that out and to sit down and then write the name of the person that fulfills that role within your business. And now, if your name is the only name on that sheet, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
Because you are your single biggest point of weakness. If something happens to you, your entire business is gone. And so each of those positions can either be automated through software or through machines, or they can be replaced by people, and then you use SOPs, which are like standard operating procedures, to design processes for people to follow, so that you can then, it makes it easy to hire and replace or scale your business.
And that brings me to the question in your book. You talk about your formula, the T, and in brackets T plus T plus T, close brackets equals R.
Yes.
I'm actually going to leave you to talk around that, because I found that formula fascinating. And it was really great to hear how the formula worked in terms of missing elements and what they actually stood for. So then, can you talk around that? I'll find it in the book here quickly. And
yeah. If you could just hold it up, because it's a lot easier to see and visualize to explain it verbally.
Here it is.
Okay, so basically what you can see is that there are 3 T's added together. That's training, team, and tools. And the combined result of those multiplied by time equals the result in your business. So you can see the first T there, the time. If that's a 0, if nobody puts any time in, if you don't put any time in, the result is always going to be 0. That's the only possible output to that equation. Now, what I find is that in the internet marketing space particularly, and at a lot of events, people are investing a huge amount into the first T within those brackets, the training.
Okay.
They're training obsessed. And this was me for several years, right? I would put all of my money into thinking that I was missing the secret, right? How many of us have felt like that? If only I just knew that those gurus, they're holding on to the missing secret. They're just trying to, con you to sell you the next course, They're withholding information.
Hey, don't laugh. I know of people that have lost anything between $20,000 and $150,000 and have got nothing to show for it.
Right, and the reason being...
And that's training, and, they have to take responsibility themselves.
They do.
because they've paid that money and they felt that there was something missing, like you said, the next.
Nobody's teaching this, right? Nobody's teaching this, because if I'm selling information, I'm going to sell you my information. I'm going to sell you the course. If I'm selling tools, I'm going to try and focus on the software that I have to sell you.
Yes.
Almost nobody's selling teams, right? Almost nobody's selling the team. And a lot of people think that they get the team afterwards. Now, like I said, if we go back to the analogy earlier about the tennis star, now, did she have the pro level team before or after winning Wimbledon?
Yeah.
Right?
After, yeah.
Before, the quality of the team lifted her up. No.
Okay, I see what you mean, of course.
Right? She had to invest in her team before she got the highest level of result.
Correct, yes.
Now, when she first started, no, right? She started with probably her high school PE teacher, right? And that got her into it. Then maybe she had some additional assistance and coaching outside of school with a local tennis pro or something. And then she would have, slowly built up, slowly expanded her team to include a coach and a trainer and a psychology expert. And slowly the quality and the size of the team would expand at each stage of her career, going through the different various championships and levels and tournaments, etc., until such a point that she now has the professional team that can lift her and carry her to the number one spot. Once you reach number one spot, you've got the number one team already. They're the ones that got you there in the first place.
Exactly.
And it's the same with every industry, whether it's music, whether it's acting, whether it's art, even in the art world, having the right managers, the right galleries, the right contacts, networks, their expanded teams. And this is why I say that, for me, an entrepreneur is really like an artist with, business as his or her canvas. Because really we need to be looking at, well, we can be a great entrepreneur and we can create a great product.
Exactly.
But unless we have the right team, we will never be lifted up to the number one position. We have that, the height that we can attain is based on the quality of the team that surround us. And that team comes first, not afterwards.
Yeah. How important do you think it is to choose, and how difficult? Because I think that's the biggest thing with people starting out building their teams is I think they freeze a little bit because they're not sure of who they're needing right away, and they're not sure of like the type of person they need. What kind of advice would you give somebody on that? And I know this because, this.
Okay, the first thing I'll say is it's not easy, right? I promise you it's not easy. There isn't a magic bullet. There isn't a single solution. There isn't a, one-size-fits-all approach to this. There just isn't. And anybody who tells you is probably lying or motivated in such a way, or simply just that they've got some vested interest in what they're trying to tell you, or they're just misinformed. The reality is that there are many different types of team. You have contractors, you have outsourcers, you have employees, you have business partners. There's a whole range of different dynamics and, part-time, full-time, occasional one-off work, whatever it may be, consultants, coaches, there's so many different elements to the different types of requirements. And if you're doing a one-off, logo and you don't have graphics involved in your business on a day-to-day basis, you may just simply need to outsource it. You may simply need to subcontract it or hire an agency to do that. And it depends on your budget. If your budget's really low, then you just have to make do with what you can get. But even if your budget is zero, I would suggest that you at least try and partner with somebody else. Because by partnering with somebody else, you increase the level of accountability, you increase your skill base, you increase your network. And all of these are going to be critical, and you increase the number of hours of work that can be achieved within one day. All of these are critical in getting an end result. It was interesting. I think it was Paul Graham, who was one of the primary early investors into things like companies like, I think it was Reddit, Dropbox, and a few others. He wrote an essay on the 18 mistakes that startups make. And one of the number one mistakes, he said, is not having a partner. His investment company wouldn't invest into people who didn't have a business partner.
Wow.
He said it was the first thing they did, the very first thing, because they had so many applications for funding. And all they did was look at the cover sheet, and if it simply said one founder, they would throw it away without even opening it.
Wow.
They were that sure of their statistics. It's not that there aren't individuals that have succeeded, but in almost every single case, it's a partnership. And it's not to say that every partnership succeeds.
No.
And this is what I always find is people come to me and say, yeah, I tried that, it didn't work. Yeah, I tried it didn't work before too. And then I tried it again and it still didn't work. And then I tried it again and it eventually did work. So, just because you've tried hiring somebody, just because you've tried outsourcing, just because you've tried partnering with somebody and you've had a bad experience, don't let that stop you from trying it again. It's a bit like the tennis star. I'm sure she went through more than one coach. She's gone through more than one trainer or more than one physiotherapist. She's failed or lost more than one match, right? We expect it in all of these other industries or in these different professions or different pursuits. Yet people somehow think that entrepreneurialism is different, and they're often out there to make the fast buck. Yeah. And again, this is why I try to say, look back to the analogy of being an artist, because in the artist, it's the struggling penniless artist that invests their last dollar into buying their paints, into buying their canvas. And I find that the true entrepreneurs are more like these artists than they are the people following a get-rich-quick scheme.
Yeah.
Because they're out there and they're reinvesting. They're investing all of their own money, and then they're reinvesting the money that their business makes back into the business instead of trying to siphon it out into their pocket. Yeah. And they're doing it because they want to make more money. Why do they want to make more money? So they can grow their business and expand their vision and make their purpose more complete. And this is exciting when you see these kind of entrepreneurs. And this is why having a purpose is so important, because it attracts the right type of people. Yes. When we're building that team, people now become aligned with a vision, not just a paycheck.
Absolutely.
That motivates people. That gets them passionate. That gets the level of work, the level of productivity, the level of excitement, the quality in your business so much higher than if you simply try and approach it on a, well, can I hire the Filipino at the cheapest possible rate kind of attitude, which is unfortunately what is being taught a lot in the online world.
Yeah. And look, I made that mistake, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And I'll tell you the few things from my side was, number one, I didn't explain what I needed up front. I went for someone in the Philippines because I was told that was the best place to go. And possibly could have got somebody amazing, but because I couldn't articulate what I needed, I didn't get what I wanted. And then, and I'm going to say this to everybody out there, because this is something that, and I think a lot of business owners do, then I managed by abdication. I thought that the person, because I'd hired them for their title, could just do the work. Well, I was in for a shock, because then that comes back to your T's, right? The training. Oh, yeah. It's like investing in, even though you are outsourcing, it's investing the time into whoever you are bringing onto your team. It doesn't matter where they come from, and not having a predetermined in your head that person is going to be good for the role, or that they know what you want, because right. They don't know your purpose.
Well, no, and this is part of the problem, and they're going to jump ship the moment somebody offers them 50 cents an hour more, even after you've spent time getting to know them, building a relationship, getting to understand the cultural differences which affect communication, getting them to understand your software or your system or your process of working. Yeah. And all of that is time that you lose, and you have to now reinvest it into hiring the next person.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that by hiring the right person, you find somebody who's already invested their time and money into the training. So this is the problem I see, as a lot of entrepreneurs think, well, okay, that job I could do, and if I don't pay this guy, I could save myself $20, or I could save myself $50, or I could save myself $100, right? I can do that myself. But that's time you're now investing into doing the work and not building your business. That's time that you're not investing into building and improving your team. That's the time that you're now having to learn or improve to do that job, instead of really focusing on the systems of your business.
Yeah. I kind of ask the question, I always ask this question, is how often is this job going to need to be done? So, for example, a website needs to be developed once, and then you obviously updating it and doing whatever. I had someone that said to me they wouldn't go and get a website developer. They were actually going to go online and learn how to do it through WordPress, watch all the videos, and build their own website, which they ended up doing. And I said, that's all great. How many hours did it take you? And the website wasn't as great as a web developer would have done it anyway. But the hours of learning was something like, she said, something like 50 hours plus on learning. And then obviously building the website. And it took her 2 or 3 months to build the website. So add that all up in time. And I said to her, now take all that time, you should have been out getting business. You should have been out there doing what you do best.
And to get an amateur result.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You, at the end of the day, you do it the first time, you're not going to do it as well as somebody who's done it 100 times.
Correct.
I mean,
and are you going to do it again? No, probably the next time you do it in 3 years' time.
In the case of if it's something that needs to be done on a daily basis, then hire somebody.
Correct.
Then you've got to try or partner with somebody that can bring that element to the business.
Yeah.
So you need to focus on what your aspect of the business is. What is your passion? So if your passion is building the website and that's what you enjoy doing, and that's what you're really good at, then focus on doing that and then hire other people to do the marketing, to do the copywriting, to do the whatever it may be, accounting, but all of these other aspects of the business need to be taken care of. And if you're not taking care of them, then your business is suffering. There is no other way of putting it. It will, if you can't see it now, you will realize it later.
Yeah.
Prevention is cheaper than cure.
And I think in your whole formula, that was one thing that kind of resonated and hit home is if you're missing one of those T's, you can still do it.
Yes.
But the time that it's going to take will be a lot longer.
And the result
you just invested in the T's. Yeah?
That's it. It's just going to take a lot longer to get a lot less result.
Yeah.
And the other important thing to point out about that formula is that you can have a negative inside there. If you've got bad training, if you've got a bad team, if you've got poor quality tools, then it's going to end up in giving you a negative or a reduced quality result.
Just putting your book down here on the side. It's misbehaving. It wants to open up all over. And I think that is an important thing that you've said there because, bad training is where people have invested a lot of money into training and have really, and I think this is something that happens on the net a lot, is the training is overwhelmed. It's so much, and then people try and sell the "but we'll do it for you" type of a thing.
Yep.
Even more money then, and it's not necessarily even the right team that you've got that you're investing in. So I think you do need to understand what you want to do with your business and look around. Don't believe everything that is going on.
No, but the problem is that most people lack clarity in their business. If you haven't mapped out your business, if you don't have it drawn out on a piece of paper, and if you can't clearly see what your business is, what business model do you have? What kind of, are you selling information products? Are you selling physical products? Are you an affiliate marketer? Do you have a combination of these different types of business? Are you a service provider? How is your business structured? Where are your leads coming from? What happens to those leads? What's the flow? What's the follow-up processes? If you can't be 100% clear about all of this, then you have no idea whether a training program is suitable. If you're not familiar with how many people are in your business, in your team, what their current skills are, what their current time availability is, then you have no idea whether or not that purchasing that training or following that training may be most suited for you, for somebody else in your team, or just completely not suited for your business at all. It doesn't matter how convincing that sales page is, right? People run around from shiny object to shiny object. We call it shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Where basically, if this guy comes along and tells you that he's got a better, faster, quicker way of generating traffic or making money, then you run over there. But you've never given the first one that you've got a proper go, or you haven't identified, is this who I am? Doing pay-per-click advertising, for example, requires a certain personality type that is comfortable and enjoys dealing with numbers and spreadsheets.
Yeah, that's not me.
Right, it's not me either, right? So I'm capable. I'm perfectly skilled at it. My maths is not that bad. I'm pretty good at it. So I can cope with it technically.
Yeah.
But it's not my personality.
No.
And I would procrastinate all day over it, and it just won't get done. And I need to be realistic about that. And I have actually a friend who's another very well-known internet marketer who shall remain nameless for this for this story. But he invested $17,000 into a PPC program that they would mentor him and train him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And said, but will they do the PPC for you? He said, no. I said, look, I love you like a brother, but tell me this. Are you a numbers guy? He said, no. I said, you are the worst numbers guy I've ever met. I said, you know, you've got many qualities, but numbers are not one of them. Yeah. Words and people are your skills, right? I said, so what would be more suitable to you, doing pay-per-click advertising or building a solid affiliate program? I mean, he's going out and he's speaking at live events. He's very, very well connected. People just love him when they meet him. He's the kind of and he's very confident talking to other people. So he's the kind of person that could network and build an incredible stable of affiliates without a problem. But sit down and try and get 1 + 1, and he's already starting to get, like, you know, frustrated because it's numbers. And so, you know, I hate to tell it to you, but you've just basically thrown away $17,000.
Yeah.
You don't have anybody else in your team at the moment that will do this part of the business for you. You're doing it with the intention that you're going to do it yourself, but you won't, and he hasn't. And it's a real shame, you know, because he could have easily basically saved himself a small fortune and made himself a much larger fortune by A, not throwing money down one hole, and B, not wasting his time on another.
Yeah.
And by reinvesting that same amount of capital and that same amount of time into something that was more suited to his personality, his style, he would have been so much more successful.
I think on the flip side of that, if he had taken that money and invested it into somebody that could do it,
right, even
better, because he probably would have made a lot more back from an expert in that particular area. He didn't need the training.
Exactly. And this is why I said to him, this is why I said to him, it's not that your company shouldn't be doing PPC. Whether now is the right time for them to do PPC, that's another question. Yeah. But if you are going to do PPC and you choose to do that now, then recognize that it's not you. Yeah. You need to hire somebody else who's already got the experience, because you don't have the skill set to train them. You don't have the time to train them. So just go out there and hire somebody straight off the bat that already knows what they're doing.
If you do hire somebody that is a little bit cheap and they do need a bit of training, rather take the money and invest it into them.
Yes.
Then worry about it yourself, because you're not going to do it. If you know you're not a numbers person, you know you're not going to do it. You know that you sit and procrastinate.
So I've just got this bug in the back of my mind, so I'm going to get it off, because you know, it's a bit like the Zeigarnik effect, that unfinished business will stay in your mind until you complete it. Yeah. Great for the purposes of copywriting, not so great when you're trying to get sort of mental peace. So we were talking previously, way back when, about the 5 P's of priority, and we got to the 4th P, but we didn't talk about the 5th P. Yeah. And that's ironic, because it's the one that we started with, really, which is the how do I make money? What's the profit? Mm-hmm. And so I think this is the really important point to make for a lot of people, is that there's a lot of ways to monetize a business. You know, there's so many ways that you can monetize a product or a service, not just through selling a physical product or a digital information product, right? But you can sell advertising, provide advertising space, have affiliate back-end offers. There's ways of creating license agreements. There's ways of integrating other people's lead gen, doing CPA. So, you see computer manufacturers do this a lot with things like Norton. You buy a computer, Norton comes installed on it, you get 30 days for free. Well, if you go and then upgrade, the computer manufacturer is now getting a kickback from Norton. So, there's companies do this all of the time, selling customer data, building database, increasing customer value for shareholder, and selling shares and monetizing that way. There's so many different ways to increase and make money within a business that how do I make money is the wrong question until you've got an understanding of what your business is and how it's running, who's inside of it, what it's operating, who its customer base is, and then you can start looking at the best way to monetize that product or service.
Yeah.
And a great example of this for me, perhaps the one of the largest examples in the world of this would be Google.
Yeah.
If you look at the Google story, let's break this down over the 5 Ps for 1 second. So in the beginning, what was Google? Google was 2 guys, right? 2 partners that had a mission to bring the world's information or make the world's information available at a single click. They had a very, very clear mission. They had a very clear purpose. And there was 2 of them. And they were passionate about programming. They were passionate about the systems inside of the technology to make this possible. Very passionate about algorithms. They were very skilled in these areas. They then needed to bring on more people to develop further code, to manage the servers, to manage the sysadmin, to manage the accounts eventually, to manage the PR and the customer service, etc. They then started building this out. They were based in Silicon Valley, right? So they were already in the right location.
Right.
To find these right types of people and to find the investors that they would need to then monetize. So investment was their first phase of monetization, right? So right at the very end, they asked the question, how are we going to make money? And the first answer was through investment capital. They raised about 23 million before they figured out how they were going to generate a penny.
Wow.
Right? And so only then, at the very, very end, did they then have a CEO that came along with a priority to, on behalf of the investors, to figure out how they were going to become profitable. Their original concept was to sell the software and sell it as a product to Yahoo, but Yahoo refused them. That was their initial idea, was perhaps, but they weren't monetizing it that way. This was just an end goal.
Yeah, Yahoo would be kicking themselves.
Oh yeah, but at the end of the day, they came out with what is now perhaps the world's largest advertising network.
Yeah.
So they didn't come out with a mission to create the world's largest advertising network and make a pile of money by selling ads, right? That was never their intention. That was never their mission. That was just the way of monetizing to fund the development of the world's most efficient and effective search engine, which is now obviously expanded to encompass much, much more of that. Now they're selling physical products like phones and tablets, and they're selling services and subscriptions and various other things. They're not just making money through their advertising network.
No, in fact, they've advanced so much as a company. They're very forward-thinking, right to the point of looking at. I was reading an article. The first programs or robots, I think it is, or artificial intelligence that can actually think and feel. And they say that they're going to be able to feel like human beings by 2028, 29. And that's like incredible.
It's mind-blowing what's happening in the world at the moment. It really is. I mean, technology, we will not recognize this planet in 20 years.
No.
We just won't recognize it. No. We may have adapted and we may forget at how quickly we've adapted and adjusted to the new environment, in the same way that, the way that we're communicating now 20 years ago was completely unheard of. This entire experience that we're having and that the viewer at home is having right now was completely unheard of and unthinkable for the majority of people 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
It's just incredible, the acceleration that is happening right now, and accelerating more. So if you think the difference between now and 20 years ago, the difference between now and 20 years in the future is going to be even greater than it was from the past.
Absolutely. I think that was saying that technology was like kind of, there would be changes every, say, 20 years, and there was every 15 years, and now they're going every 10, 12 years, there are changes, and it will. The timing will just get closer.
Again, this is part of my mission as well. So, people often ask me, well, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
And
what is your purpose, Liam?
What is my purpose? That's a very good question.
What is your purpose?
Well, look, I've been thinking about this a lot. Obviously, it's something that is becoming increasingly in my awareness and my thought process. And I've realized that this change in technology is happening so fast, and it's being driven by business. And society itself is designed and engineered by business. If you look at virtually everything that happens, whether it be the problems with oil spills and the problems with agrochemical pollution, through to the solutions of solar and companies like Tesla are putting forward, or the solutions even in our own small way. Fusion HQ enables people to stop their daily commute. It enables people to work efficiently from home, or from small localized offices. You can see this is my office, right?
Oh, shut up.
These type of solutions provide people with opportunities that either move society and move the world towards a solution-based society, or towards creating more problems.
Yeah.
And as entrepreneurs, I think it's our responsibility to take this seriously. I forget the exact quote now, but Voltaire said something like, no snowflake feels responsible for the avalanche. And I think as an entrepreneur, we are part of that avalanche. Whether we like it or not, when we create a business, we are in some way contributing towards the engineering of society. The choices we make as a consumer obviously is affecting those companies and the companies that we work with that have the bigger knock-on effects.
Yeah.
So for financial sustainability, for environmental sustainability, for social sustainability, we really need to be looking at how businesses are running, how they're being built, what kind of thought processes are going into them, and of course, fundamentally, what's their purpose? What's their product or service? And is that affecting and is that contributing towards society in a positive way? And that's really what I really want people to do, is to get off the bandwagon of asking the question, how do I make money? And recognize that we don't need to compromise. We don't need to compromise here about are we making money, or are we providing a solution and doing something good for the world? We can do both simultaneously.
Yes.
They're not separated.
Absolutely.
But if we don't do it consciously, if we don't start by asking the right questions up front, people say, okay, well, I'll do it once I'm making money. You don't understand my situation. I'm broke. Look, I can tell you I started when I was negative $50,000 at one point, and built my business from there. So I can assure you I understand. I had a family. There was weeks where I at the end of the week, I couldn't see how I was going to pay the rent, how I was going to buy food. So I can assure you, I understand what it's like to start with nothing and come from a place where every day is a financial struggle and the money is a big focus and a big priority. Right? And we're not alone. Yeah. Right? There's a lot of people who will be listening to this, that's their current experience. But what I encourage you to do is to think beyond that and to recognize that the path to attaining financial security can be done through a process of asking the right questions and engineering a business that is actually sustainable, that is actually contributing towards society in a positive way, and that basically makes you feel good about yourself and that you can be proud of regardless of the financial output.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I know so many people that said, I didn't get it until I made money. And once I made money, then I understood it's not about the money.
No.
And then they get it when it's too late. And the problem is that for a lot of them, they've built their business and they are financially successful. And the problem is that they haven't automated it. And therefore, they've now created a business where their financial security is dependent
on them,
on that business that they've created that they now hate.
Yeah.
But they're now afraid to let it go because it is their security.
Yeah.
And they get caught in this catch-22. And it's horrible to see. And I've seen it again and again and again.
Yeah. In fact, I know of one person that has the most phenomenal product that they've built over 25 years, and it isn't automated. And they're not young anymore, which means that if they don't find a way of automating all this brilliant, brilliant information that they've collected over those years, it's something so precious that will be lost.
Yes. And look, this is the important point to remember here, is that automation, systematization, it is the very, very fundamental of business. If you look at companies like McDonald's or Starbucks, I mean, whether it's Apple or Google or any company you can basically think of that's got an international reputation, they've only achieved that through scaling by automation and systems. Right? That's the only way that they've ever been able to achieve that. They weren't a solopreneur. And of course, many, many other companies that you've never even heard of.
Yeah.
And the most important point to remember is it doesn't happen automatically.
Yeah.
Automation doesn't happen automatically, right? It has to happen consciously. You've got to make that decision. You've got to take the initiative, and you've got to take the action steps to put those systems into place.
Yeah. And I just want to clarify with you, because people get, I believe, people get confused with the word systems. They always think it's technology, but it's not. The systems are the whole way that the business is running. So these are your processes that you're talking about. This is your technology that you're putting in. This is how you build your teams. It's the whole system of your business.
Down to the way that you operate your daily life.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your procedure for the day?
Yeah.
What's your routine?
You spoke about the standard operating procedures, and all of it is your system for your business.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, once you've engineered the security, you've engineered the stability, you've engineered these systems and processes in place, then you can start having a lot more flexibility and freedom with your time.
Yeah.
Again, this is, you know, you've read the book, so you know my feelings around the concept of freedom. But for me, freedom, again, is a very misunderstood term. And for me, freedom is more about having the freedom to choose what you commit to.
Yeah.
Because nobody is truly free. If you look at people like Richard Branson or Donald Trump or, Elon Musk, you look at these guys and say, well, how free is their schedule? Could they just pack up and do this or do something tomorrow? The answer is almost certainly no, they cannot. Why? Because they've committed to something so much bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Right? They've committed to something bigger even perhaps than their own families, which may be quite a, controversial statement to make, but they're thinking on a global level.
Yeah.
They've committed to something. It's not that they don't love their families. It's not that they don't have commitments to those families, or it's not like they have personal hobbies that they enjoy and that they don't make time for, but they don't have complete freedom. They have a lot of responsibilities. And, you know, these guys could have retired years ago, but they don't, because they're driven by something so much bigger than money.
Yeah.
You look at Elon Musk, you know, in his company, one of his companies, Tesla, was on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yes.
They had 2 days in which to raise millions of dollars, about $40 million or something, to try and save the company. 2 days to achieve it. Otherwise, the whole company was going to go bankrupt. Now, Elon could have taken what money he had and run and liquidated the company and just basically still retired and live a peaceful life. Instead, he spent his nights crying in his pillow during his sleep and basically begged and borrowed money off friends and family and used the last of his possible savings to inject into the company to raise enough investor confidence to raise the rest of the money and save the company on the last minute. And that, to me, is an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that is heart. That is passion and heart, you know?
That's an artist ensuring that his vision becomes a reality no matter what the consequences. That's somebody who's driven by the purpose of the business. And in his mind, Tesla is there to be a contribution towards saving the world, because he believes that we need to get off oil and gas as quickly as possible. In his mind, it may already be too late.
Yeah.
But essentially, we don't have time. Tomorrow is not an option. Today is the only day that we can do this.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to build a car company. That's not his mission. His mission is to save the planet. But he recognized that the other car companies weren't going to do this. And this was his best possible way of trying to actually make an impact and make a difference in a real, meaningful way. And so one of the interesting things about Tesla as well is that they actually give away all of their patents to their competition. I mean, in basically no other industry does this really happen. But in Elon's mind,
because they want them to build those kind of cars.
Yeah, he does. People are out there. If you read the technology news, they're all concerned about, Ford is creating competition. This one is creating competition. That's what Elon wants. If all of the other car manufacturers replace their lineups with solar-powered competition, if they were to replace all of the petrol stations and completely wipe Tesla off the map and put Tesla into the history books, that would be fine by Elon, because it meant that his objective had been reached. Now, if he can do that in a way while maintaining Tesla as a successful company and still have that end result, then of course that's the most ideal solution.
Yeah,
so that's the optimal end goal, which is what he's aiming for. So he's trying to ensure that Tesla survives as a company, but he's also encouraging the competition to copy them. And he's giving them the technology, the patents to actually achieve that in a much quicker, faster, lower cost way than they would otherwise have to do.
Phenomenal man. He's an absolutely phenomenal man. In fact, all of them you mentioned are absolutely, like, truly.
He's South African, so it must be good, right?
Listen, where can we, because this book is being launched, and I know it's being launched through Amazon, so that's where you can go and buy it?
Yep, you can go and search for it on Amazon, or you can just go straight to the website, createautomateaccelerate.com, and then you'll find the correct links and the information about the book there. And it's live, it's available now. So I definitely recommend, not that I'm biased in any way, but I definitely recommend you go out, check it out, and this is my mission. So again, I'm not in for it for the money. The book doesn't really make money.
No.
So whatever you can do to share it, hand it around, pass it on to others. Same with this video. I don't know whether you encourage this, but share the link.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much a sharing person, and people in my industry know me like that. I believe in what we call co-opetition, which is there is no competition. There's so much to go around for everyone, and I honestly believe that everything is abundant. So, if we all had that mindset, and like you said, we were working to a purpose, and that purpose, business itself, has a responsibility to our future, to the world.
Yep. Well, I mean, the other thing to point out, sorry, but with the book as well, when you get a copy of the book, you also get access to a whole online training program that we put together as a 28-day video training course. You also get free autoresponder software. You get a bunch of other free resources. You get a free headline generator software. There's a bunch of stuff in there that you get as additional free bonuses when you buy the book. I haven't
gone. I've seen the bonuses, and I do need to go in and test them. But yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. Do you know what I found really interesting is how minds think so alike? Because I had a 28-day program as well, and I love the fact that you had 28 days and 28 days.
Well, I mean, this is the course that we've been told we should be selling, but ultimately it all comes back down to this thing of what we want to do is encourage people to be out there becoming financially independent for those people who choose to become entrepreneurs. That's a conversation we haven't had, but I don't believe it's for everybody. But if you know that you are an entrepreneur and you should be going out there and you want to build a business, then we want to give you as much of a head start as we possibly can, because we want to see the world becoming a better place. And obviously you could use those tools for doing bad things, but we hope that you're not going to. And we hope that this education and that this information not only encourages you, but gives you the right questions and the right path to follow to actually attain something that is operating at a much higher level, not just financially, but socially. And from an enthusiasm perspective, from a feel-good factor, that you are enjoying your life and you're making the most out of it and you're getting the most in return. And these tools are just, our way of trying to contribute towards that. So like I say, please do share this information. Go out, share this video with as many people as you can. Share the book, hand it around, encourage other people to buy a copy, support the project. And, together, let's create more meaningful lives through creating more meaningful businesses.
Wonderful. Leon, thank you so much for your time. You're absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love listening to you. I could listen to you all day.
It's all a pleasure.
Knowledge knowledgeable. Yeah.
This is the message we've got to get out there. So thank you for giving a platform for us to, or for me in this case, to share that message.
You're very welcome. And the dolphins at the back there.
They swam past earlier. I can see a couple of seals still playing out there at the moment. But yeah, no, we've been having pods of dolphins go past every morning. It's just gorgeous here.
Yeah. Leon, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.